What's up guys, it's Kamahley here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the differences between the Ducky 1.2 Mini and the Apex Pro, and which one is really good for Fortnite. And as you guys know, I'm a small channel, so any likes or any subs would be greatly appreciated. And to support me, don't forget to use creator code Kamahley in the item shop. And without further ado, let's get in the video. What's up guys, and as you guys know, the Ducky 1.2 Mini has definitely been one of the most popular keyboards in Fortnite. This keyboard has received its popularity not only because it's such a good keyboard, but because it used to be used a lot by tfue. On June 11th of 2019, the Apex Pro was released. But still yet no one really knew about this keyboard because at the time, smaller keyboards were really popular and the Apex Pro was a full-size keyboard. Later in 2019, when the Apex Pro TKL was released, that's when the Apex Pro became more popular. If you guys don't know what that means, TKL is basically just a regular keyboard, but it doesn't have the number pad. So it's the same thing essentially, but just a little bit smaller. And the same thing goes for 60% keyboards, it's just without the number pad and the F keys. So the keyboards I'm going to be showcasing in this video is the Ducky 1.2 Mini, which is 60%, and the Apex Pro, which is 100%. Don't ask me why I have the big version, it's because I accidentally bought the wrong one on Amazon because I am really stupid. So the switches I'm going to be using on these keyboards is for my Apex Pro, it has the Omnipoint switches, which the actuation is adjustable. I'll explain more about that in a minute. And for my Ducky 1.2 Mini, I'm using blue switches. So you guys may be wondering why the Apex Pro is such a good keyboard or why it's so popular, and it's because of the new Omnipoint switches. So basically what these switches are is you can change the actuation point. So actuation is basically the force that is required at a point. So basically how far you have to press the key before it can be recognized. So for example, if I use my Ducky 1.2 Mini and I barely press my Q button, which is the bind to take out my floor, it wouldn't happen. But if I use my Apex Pro and barely press that button, the floor would come out instantly. The actuation point on the Apex Pro at its lowest is a 0.4, which is really fast. And the actuation point on the Ducky 1.2 Mini that I have with blue switches is a 2.2. So the reason for Omnipoint switches on the Apex Pro is so you don't always have to play on that really low actuation point, because you can actually change it. So for example, the actuation on the Apex Pro has 10 levels. Level 1 being the 0.4 actuation, which would be the fastest, and then level 10 being 3.6 actuation, being the slowest. Now you guys are probably thinking what I'm thinking. If the Apex Pro is so fast, why on earth would anybody rather the Ducky 1.2 Mini over the Apex Pro? So let's talk about the switches. So if you're going to be getting the Apex Pro, most of the times I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be getting the one with the Omnipoint switches, because if you're not, then you're not getting the Apex Pro, you're getting the Apex 7. So with the Omnipoint switches, they're mostly linear switches and it feels light with a quiet sound level. And it has more of a top to bottom feeling when you press it. Now, when you get the Ducky 1.2 Mini, you have a lot of switches to switch from. You have the Cherry MX Reds, which is a linear switch. It has a light feeling and it sounds quiet. Then you have the Cherry MX Black, which is also a linear switch, but it has a heavy key feeling and it also has a quiet sound. You have the Cherry MX Blues, which is the one that I have. It has a tactile clicky sound, it's light, and it's a really loud sound. One of the most popular switches is the Cherry MX Browns. It's tactile without the clicky sound, it's a medium click, and it's quiet. And if I'm not wrong, the fastest switch for the Ducky 1.2 Mini is the Cherry MX Speed Silvers. They come in with a 1.2mm actuation point. It is a linear switch, and they're also really quiet. Now, if you're using switches like the Speed Silvers and you use a Ducky 1-2 Mini, I feel like it'd be really easy for you to get used to the Apex Pro because the switches are kind of similar. Now, a big question you have to ask yourself if you're trying to decide between these two keyboards is how much do you care about characteristics versus speed? For example, if you're really enjoying using the blue switches, but you know that the Apex Pro is faster, would you sacrifice the feeling that you like just to use a keyboard that's way faster and give you the competitive advantage? Or would you stick with what you're used to and more comfortable with? Now, as a test, I'm going to be showing you guys me building in creative with a 0.4 actuation on the Apex Pro, and then with my Ducky 1-2 Mini, which is a 2.2 actuation. And then on the Apex Pro, I'm going to change my actuation to the closest I can get it to my Ducky 1-2 Mini's actuation and see what I like better. So right off the bat, with the Apex Pro at level 1, I can tell you guys now, if you're not used to it, it's so hard to play without accidentally pressing a button because the actuation presses so fast. And I kept doing this a lot, and that's why it's so hard for me to get used to it. But the linear switches feel so smooth and so nice to use that it just makes it so much more comfortable. Now I'm going to be trying it at actuation level 5, which should be about the same as the Ducky 1-2 Mini's actuation. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm making a good guess that it's around the same actuation. Now using this keyboard at a higher actuation isn't as hard as using it on the lower one, but using linear switches compared to when you used to use blue switches, which is tactile, is so much harder to get used to, and I can still tell that even when I do have it on higher actuation. Now, obviously, I'm gonna say I feel better on a Ducky 1-2 Mini because that's the keyboard I've been using, but the Apex Pro does feel way better. Also, another factor is that the Apex Pro does not go to 60%, therefore you can get a really small version of this keyboard. So for the people with like small mouse pads or wherever you use the small keyboard, you won't be able to get a percentage of that. You only can get the TKL. Now, this is my opinion, but I think for the price range, since the Apex Pro is almost $200, that is really expensive. So if you're not getting the Apex Pro to use it at like a 1 actuation, or just use it at the lowest so it's lower than normal keyboards, then it's kind of pointless. Now the reason for this is because if someone's paying $200 for a keyboard, they're most likely using it for competitive advantages. And if you're not using it at an actuation that's lower than normal keyboards, then paying $200 for it isn't really worth it, because you can get a linear switch like the Speed Silvers and it'll be around the same actuation and it'll feel around the same. Only thing you're not getting is that sick LED screen that you're able to mess with and put on any gifts that you want. I think that's really cool, but other than that, it's not really worth it if you're not going for it for a complete competitive advantage. But again guys, it's just my personal opinion. You have your own opinions on it and why you would want it. So if we're going to talk about stats, the Apex Pro will win almost every time because of the response times and the actuation times. But if you're talking about like customizability and what you like better or what to feel more comfortable with, you have a lot of different options with the Ducky 1-2 Mini. So all in all, the Apex Pro has a faster actuation point, faster response times. It has a really cool LED screens with linear switches that are really smooth feeling. And then the Ducky 1-2 Mini has a different customizable options, different size keyboards, and also a lot of different switches that you can choose from, and a lot of different customizable keycaps. For me, I'm gonna be sticking with my Ducky 1-2 mini just because I'm an idiot and I accidentally got the Apex Pro in the wrong size, and then I don't really like the 100%. I don't know if I would like it better at TKL, but I also just don't feel like getting used to the Apex Pro, and I feel like because I've always used blue switches that I would never get used to it in time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If that helped or if you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like or drop a sub. Also, to support me, don't forget to use creator code Kamahley in item shop. It's Kamahley. Wow.